Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at two great investment research platforms, the Motley Stock Advisor and Morningstar. Both these platforms are really useful for long-term investors who need a little bit of help figuring out what stocks you want to add to your portfolio. They are very different in style though. Stock Advisor is a recommendation service that issues 2 stock recommendations per month and really helps you build a portfolio based on the Stock Advisor portfolio. Morningstar, on the other hand, is more of a research service. It offers investment ideas. There are different lists of stocks you can look through for ideas to add to your portfolio. And it also has a pretty significant focus on ETFs and mutual funds. So in this video, I'll take a closer look at both platforms and help you decide which one is right for you. So let's start off with Motley Stock Advisor. This is a stock recommendation service that issues 2 new recommendations every month. Since it was founded in 2002, as of November 2024, it has beaten the S&P 500 more than 900% to 173%. So this has really outperformed the market over a period of more than 20 years. That's really one of the best things that Stock Advisor has going for it, is that track record. This is a service that knows how to find stocks and has historically done a really great job of beating the market. It does have a focus on explosive long-term growth stocks. So some of the most successful picks in the past include Amazon, Disney, Netflix, Nvidia. So if you're into more dividend stocks or more value stocks, this is maybe not going to be the best service for you. It is very growth focused. So with each stock recommendation, you get research reports, and I'll show you an example of a research report for Netflix from a couple of years ago. These are really useful for just getting an overview of why a stock is being recommended. So there's a quick summary of the company, including the thesis behind why you should buy it right now. There's key data about the company's financials, the leadership team, as well as any risks that Motley Fool analysts see for that company in the future. And this can be really useful when deciding whether a particular recommendation is something you want to add to your portfolio or not. Stock Advisor does also offer a little bit of research. So this is the research page for Netflix. You can see there's an overview of the company, a little bit about the growth outlook and financial highlights. You can dive into the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. And you can see when it was recommended in the past, which can be really useful for companies that have been recommended multiple times by Stock Advisor. The other key thing you get with Stock Advisor is this ranking list. This is a list of stocks that are already in the portfolio and that Motley Fool analysts recommend you consider doubling down on right now. They may be going through a pullback and have a really good entry price, or analysts may think that they're potentially poised for growth. In any case, if you're not happy with one of the new recommendations for the month, or you have some extra cash to invest in between recommendations, you can dive into this ranking list, and there's a bunch of stocks here for you to choose from to add to your portfolio. One important thing I want to point out about Motley Fool Stock Advisor is that while it does have research about stocks that are in the portfolio and in the Motley Fool universe, it doesn't have a lot of research for stocks that have not ever been recommended for Stock Advisor. So you can't just search for any stock in this service and get a research report on it. So it's really important if you're interested in doing your own research or going beyond the recommendations that Stock Advisor offers. You're not going to find a lot on this platform. So with that in mind, let's jump into Morningstar, which is much more research focused, much more aimed at self-directed investors. So on the homepage, you can see there's some interesting stories. You can find, for example, highlights of different types of funds or stocks in certain sectors that Morningstar recommends right now. What I really like about this is the investing ideas tab, where you can look at different lists of investments that Morningstar recommends considering. So Morningstar is really focused on value and moats. So economic moats being like, for example, Amazon has an economic moat in that it has a lot of physical infrastructure that's hard to replicate for a startup. You can look at companies that have, wide moats. You can look at wide moat stocks that are also undervalued. This can be a really useful list for finding long-term growth stocks. So if you click on any stock, you get quite a bit of information about that company. One of the things that's really great about Morningstar is that it actually conducts a fair value analysis. So you can see the current price compared to the fair value that Morningstar assigns to a stock. And that gives you an idea of what your appreciation potential is if you buy this stock right now. It also rates stocks on a 1 to 5 star scale. This is mostly based on fair value combined with the uncertainty in the fair value. Another thing I really like about Morningstar is that you actually get research reports for thousands of stocks. So these are written by real analysts at Morningstar, and they give you quite a bit of information about what's going on at a company. I really like this bulls say, bears say. This gives you kind of competing opinions about whether a stock is good or bad. It's a little bit reminiscent of the op-ed articles in Seeking Alpha, if you're familiar with that platform. And I do have a review on that as well. The research reports go a little bit into financial strength as well as a company's economic moat. So a little bit more context for those scores you saw on the main overview page. If you're interested, you can also dive into a chart of price versus fair value over time. It can be useful for seeing if the price reverts to that sort of fair value mean over time. You can also dive into a company's financials, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, just like in Motley Fool. I like the way that it's presented here a little bit better. You can kind of dig in to annual or quarterly timeframes, as well as different types of reports. You also get a bunch of valuation metrics in Morningstar. So this is, again, really valuable for value investors who are looking at how a stock's valuation metrics have changed over time and whether it's a good value right now. I also want to point out that Morningstar has a really big focus on mutual funds and ETFs. So there's a whole section on the site for ETFs. You can look at all these articles that tell you about ETFs that are worth buying. You can also check out upgrades and downgrades from Morningstar analysts on specific ETFs. This is a really cool way to just find ETFs that are potentially worth buying right now that maybe have some momentum. Morningstar also has investing ideas for ETFs. So if you go back to that investing ideas section, you can see there's featured funds here, as well as U.S. equity medalist funds. So it can be really useful for finding different ETFs and mutual funds that are recommended by Morningstar analysts. And then the last thing I want to show you in Morningstar are the portfolio tools. These are really cool if you have a large portfolio that includes a mix of stocks and ETFs because of this portfolio X-ray tool. So what this does is it looks inside your funds, both ETFs and mutual funds, and actually pulls out the individual stocks and other assets that are in those in order to create these graphs. So I have a mix of stocks and ETFs in this portfolio. And what I'm seeing is that there's some non-US equities in those ETFs, as well as fixed income in those ETFs. When I look at sector exposure, it's pulling that data from within those ETFs, not just based on individual stocks, whereas most portfolio analysis tools will actually just ignore ETFs altogether when presenting this type of data. So it can be really powerful if you're a mixed investor who buys a combination of stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds, and even bonds. So to give a little more comparison between Morningstar and Motley Fool, I think one of the big ways that they differ is in how the stock recommendations are presented. With Motley Fool, you get new stock recommendations every month, and they're just, here's a stock, here's the research report, consider this for your portfolio, and you can use what's presented to decide whether to buy. You don't have to think about a whole universe of stocks. There's one or two in front of you at any given time. And if you're not happy with those, you can look with the rankings list and get a few more ideas to look at. In Morningstar, on the other hand, you have these investing ideas, and these can be really helpful, especially for value investors. But it's worth noting that each of these lists contains, between 100 and 200 stocks. There are some smaller lists. For example, this wide moat undervalued tech stocks only has about 11 companies in it. But for the most part, you're going to have to look through hundreds of companies and dive into a lot of research in order to figure out which specific stocks that Morningstar is recommending that you want to add to your portfolio. On the other hand, as I was just talking about, if you're interested in investing in a combination of stocks along with ETFs and mutual funds, Morningstar is really one of the best platforms out there. Motley Fool does very occasionally recommend ETFs, but it's very rare. Whereas Morningstar is very ETF focused, and you'll get constant recommendations for new ETFs to consider. Again, each with research reports, very in-depth analysis. You can dive into these funds and figure out which ones are right for your portfolio. And then once you invest in those ETFs, you can actually use Morningstar's portfolio tools to look in those and make sure that your portfolio stays balanced over time as you mix different ETFs and stocks. So I think those are the two biggest differences between Morningstar and the Motley Fool Stock Advisor. If you want to learn more about each of these platforms, we do have video reviews of each of them. I'll link those in the video. So let's take a look at how much each of these services costs. Motley Fool Stock Advisor costs $199 per year, and we actually have a link. You can get your first year for just $99, so it's a really good deal, especially considering the performance of this service over more than 20 years. It's also worth noting that Motley Fool offers Epic. This costs $499 per year, and it includes multiple services, including Stock Advisor, Rule Breakers, Hidden Gems, and Dividend Investor. So these are additional newsletters from Motley Fool that give you a total of 5 stock recommendations every month. Again, Stock Advisor gives you 2 every month on its own. So Morningstar Investor is a little bit more expensive. It costs $249 for an annual membership or $34.95 if you decide to pay monthly. It does offer a 7-day free trial, whereas with Motley Fool, you can get a 30-day membership fee back guarantee, but there's no trial period. I definitely recommend taking advantage of the 7-day free trial if you're interested in Morningstar Investor. It's a really good way to test drive the platform. So overall, I think Stock Advisor is a really great choice for investors who want recommendations that are easy to consider and really actionable. Morningstar is the better choice if you're looking for DIY research tools, you're interested in a broader universe of stocks, and you're also interested in combining stock and ETF and mutual fund investments.